Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made.
And I'm Ross, creative director of Epic Made, and we're the hosts of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business.
We're forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast, especially since we are just starting out. And as always, this episode is brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a collaborative of expert artists and animators who help brands tell powerful and engaging stories. We've demonstrated our expertise in visual storytelling, fantasy, pop culture, and detailed world building in collaboration with some of the biggest entertainment brands on planet Earth, including Sci-Fi, Nickelodeon, and TNT. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign.
So with us today, we have Marci Selsberg, owner of BlahUSA, which represents some of the best animation studios from all over the world. Welcome, Marci.
Well, thank you for having me. This is terrific.
Absolutely. So before we get into today's topic, we have a few questions for you just to help our audience get to know you a little bit better.
No questions allowed. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's going to make this really difficult.
Okay. Hit me.
So how long have you been doing this and what brought you into the industry?
I have been working with animation and visual effects for about 30 years, believe it or not. And I was started at an ad agency and realized I didn't want to be on the account side of an ad agency and made it clear to those around me that I wanted to be in production. Ended up working with a live action director, met an executive producer there who I loved. He moved over to this amazing production company, the biggest animation studio in New York at the time, called Broadcast Arts, who was doing Pee-wee's Playhouse, and they were doing all the stop motion IDs for MTV when it first came out. And he brought me over there. And so that's where I just absolutely fell in love with animation. And through meeting other people and networking, I got moved around and got hired by a guy named Rich Durkin, who owned a company that represented animation studios from all over the world. And that's where I started.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's obviously when I'm not a Victoria's Secret supermodel. No.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we can assume that.
Yeah.
So what would you say is top of mind right now in the animation industry?
You know, we would say it's the flavor of the month. Someone will do a stop motion spot and it'll go on the air, and then all of a sudden everybody wants to do stop motion, or everybody wants to do CG characters, and then for months it goes on CG characters. Right now, for the past year, I have felt that really illustrative 2D is hot right now. I'm getting a lot of requests for illustrative 2D, all different kinds, a little 2.5D, a little more dimensional, but all kinds of beautiful 2D.
That's fantastic, because that's what Epic Made does.
Awesome. Yeah.
There we go.
We are seeing that too.
Yeah, good.
Absolutely. And I guess the very last thing, you spoke with us a little bit before the podcast about some nominations and awards. So why don't you tell us about the project that you're most proud of in your career to date, I suppose?
Okay, so I think I'm most proud of executive producing a music video for Public Enemy, who was one of the first big rap groups. And we were nominated for an MTV award. And we went and we lost to Dr. Dre, who my husband says is my nemesis because we lost to him. But I'll tell you, do we have time for a really quick story about that video?
Absolutely.
Is that okay? So in the storyboard, there's a point where it says, "Gangsta bitches come into frame and dance on car." Okay, so we were shooting down on Wall Street in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. So it's so crowded. It's just packed with people. And here we are with this car, and my director gets on the mic, he's yelling, the speakerphone is yelling, "Okay, cue the gangsta bitches."
That's awesome.
And everybody's looking around, what the hell's going on? And these girls come into the frame and they're dancing on the car. And at one point, I'm standing next to, and I don't know if you know who Flava Flav is. She was,
Oh, yeah.
okay. So I'm
Giant
sitting
clock.
next to Flava Flav, and I said, you know, Flava, my life's dream is to become a gangsta bitch. How do I do that? I really want to make my parents proud. And he looked at me and he said, Marcy Mars, you're my Jewish gangsta bitch of love. That's all you need. And he put one of those clocks around my neck, and we took this really great
yeah.
picture that I can share with you later. But
Please share that.
yeah, I will. I can share
Oh, my
it.
God.
with you.
Amazing. So we have owner of animation studio extraordinaire, Victoria's Secret model, and gangsta bitch.
Oh, and winner of a Clio Award for a bank commercial back in, I think, 94. Yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
Literally all the street cred you could possibly ever want.
Yeah, I think so. That's a lot of street cred.
All the street cred.
Yeah.
So clearly this episode's going to be very boring, Dad. Very monotone. Very...
There you go. There you go.
All right. So on this episode, we're really going to focus on the do's and don'ts of creating a demo reel. So, you know, Marci having this vast experience has seen, I'm sure, the best and the worst of demo reels. And I thought this would be a great episode to really add some value to our audience. And, you know, without, let's dive into it. So, yeah, Marci, take it away. What do you think is like the pinnacle of like, how should you do a demo reel?
Okay. Well, there are some definite do's and don'ts. Let me give you a quick example of a big fat sack of don't. Let's do that. Okay. So I get reels sent to me a lot by animators, even though I don't really hire animators. I represent very large animation studios and they do their own hiring. But there are times when I will get reels from animators and it'll say director on it. And I'll look at this reel and I'll say, okay, I know you didn't direct that because I represent the studio who did it and you were not the director on it. So that's a big fat sack of don't. If you're going to label it director, then don't put spots on there that you didn't direct. You have to be very specific about what you did. So when I confronted this person who sent me this, and that's happened a couple of times, I said, you know, I hate to say this to you, but I know you didn't direct this spot because I represent the guy who did. And he said, well, yeah, I did the background. So you can't put a piece on your reel and misrepresent it. You really have to label it exactly what you did. If you want to do more background work or you want to do more cleanup work, then call it your cleanup reel, call it your background reel and send it out. And, you know, obviously make sure your name is on there, make sure your name is all over it and your contact information and your website and all that stuff. So that's the first big fat sack of no.
So don't lie.
Don't lie.
Yeah, don't lie.
Lying is bad.
In case you missed that in childhood, don't lie. Yeah.
Honestly, so I received the demo reels for potential artists for Epic Made. And while you don't get too many people, at least I haven't, who are claiming like a director spot or something like that, you do get a lot of animators who will say, hey, I did this whole sequence. Like my name is on this whole sequence, when in reality, they just did the storyboarding or they just did the line work, like the cleanup, or they just did the flats. And that's kind of more along your point of, if you're going to, don't be ashamed of the contribution that you put into a scene.
Right.
If it's a good scene, it takes a village. Like, and it's understood in the industry. You don't have to be this jack of all trades and like sort of peacock yourself out. You can be part of a team, and that's just as valuable when we're looking at this
Absolutely.
stuff.
Absolutely. I think the other important thing is you do these pieces, and these, in a sense, are your babies. All the pieces that you've done are your babies, right? You put your sweat and your heart and your soul into these babies. And it's very, very difficult for you as an artist to be objective about it. You know, I've got studios who will finish a piece and the client was horrible and the producer was difficult and the budget got cut in half and it was just a really horrible experience. So they don't want to show that piece on a reel. And I say to them, but I know this is your baby and you know everything that went badly with it, but they're not going to know when we send it out. And it's beautiful. If I didn't know all the hell you went through, it's a beautiful piece. So you have to really be able to step back, look at your pieces, and be very objective. And that works both ways. I think if you think something's beautiful, you still have to step back and say, okay, how is someone else going to react to this? Maybe it's not as good as I think it is.
Yeah, Ross and I do that dance a lot on our reels.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So we're familiar.
Be
just trying to be
conscious that these are your babies. Yeah, it is very difficult. As I said, these are your babies. You gave birth to these. And it's like Sophie's Choice. You have to pick one or the other to go on. And you do that. These are your babies. So, learn to be objective about your work after it's done.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Don't lie.
Don't lie. Be objective. The other thing is, and I learned this over the years, is that especially recently, I think it's more since COVID, people, especially in the United States, we have no attention span. We have absolutely no attention span.
None.
Right?
It's down to seconds now.
Right. And so I know when I look at a reel, when a studio sends me a link, they want me to represent them, I'm kind of whizzing through it too. If I don't see really great stuff at the beginning, it takes a lot for me to keep going. So one of the big pieces of advice that I've gotten from other producers that I like to give out too is that if they don't see what you're looking for in the first 3 spots, they're done. So you need to start your reels with the best of the best. And if, let's say you've only done 5 pieces and 3 of them are kick ass, leave the other 2 off, because less is more. Because the worst pieces on your link, those are going to bring you down, because they're going to look at these first 3 and say, holy shit, this is great work. Oh, but what happened here? What happened to these other 2? So leave them off. Less is more.
Yeah. And I think speaking to that as well, the high end curation of it, when I look at demo reels, or when I'm looking at artists to potentially work through a project that we have on deck, or a prospective project that we have on deck, one of the first things that I look for is, are you showing what I need for this project as well? And so curating a demo reel to who you're sending it to for a given project is also really smart. At least I would say so.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of the time, like you're saying, we're only looking at the first couple, and then we're either watching the rest of the way through, or we're turning it off and going to the next one, because we're all incredibly busy. And so if you're sending me a demo reel, especially to kind of audition for a given project that you're aware of the parameters for, if it's a 2D animation and the first 2-3 spots of your demo reel are 3D animation, then I can assess that you understand the fundamentals of animation or not from a 3D spot, but it's not helpful. I can't tell the end quality of the work from what could be your best pieces. So it's okay to lend, to curate that sort of stuff on a per project basis too. It doesn't always have to be your best work. It could also be your best in a category.
Right.
Marci, you mentioned something to me when we were talking before, that there's some tools out there that help people do that pretty expeditiously.
That help people do what in particular?
Create custom reels, based off like that. Yeah. What is that?
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
These services really work better when you have a whole ton of work. If you only have 3 or 4 pieces, then you're not going to want to spend the money on this. But all of my studios that I represent, they use something called Simian, Simian. And there's another one called Wire Drive, which is terrific too. And then there's Slate. And what these services do is, let's say you have 25, 30 spots that you've done. You upload everything to their service, to your, Epic Made service. And then what happens is, if I were representing you and I called you and I said, okay, I've got a producer who needs line drawing, 2D line drawing. You go into your account on any of these services and create a reel, create a link. So you drag and drop all the line drawing work that you want. And you create a link and you can move it around and send it to me. And I'll say, nope, put number 3 at number 1, put number 4 at number 2. And then you can very easily change it. And then you send it to whoever needed it. And then you can it's got great analytics. You can keep track of if they looked at it, how much did they look at? Did they make it through the whole thing? So these services aren't incredibly inexpensive, but if you have a lot of work and you need to put links together all the time, they're fantastic. All my studios use them.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing some details about that.
The other thing I would say is when you're putting a reel together, just leave off the dates because there are years that it's going to be slow and you're not going to have a lot of new work. And then in 2023, you're going to be sending out a 2021 reel. It says 2021. You don't even need the dates because if they see it's the 2020 or 2021 reel, they're going to say, well, what the hell have they been doing for a year or two?
Yeah, it's only prohibitive, isn't it?
It is. It only works against you. If you send out a reel, they're going to say, oh, this must be their latest work. Take the dates off.
Yeah, that's a great little. I don't think a lot of people would think that is harmful to them. I think that's a great nugget of information.
Yeah, it's almost like a job vacancy. Like, oh, you didn't work from here to here,
right?
In a resume, yeah,
exactly. So it can only hurt you. So I tell all my studios, take the dates off.
Fantastic.
Even when studios call me and I'm not going to represent them, and I look at their work, just take it. Why does it say 2019?
Friendly advice.
Yeah. There's also, people may want to put together a montage. If you have enough work, put a montage together. And my only advice about the montage is try not to repeat work in a montage, because I would look at it and say, oh, so you have this guy with the hat at the beginning and you have him in the middle and you have him at the end. That tells me you don't have enough work to put in the montage.
Hear that, Carl? That's a
that's
a suggestion that I've given Epic Made that has now been officially sanctioned by the Queen herself.
You could add the Queen wrestle that one. You won that one.
Yeah, and no tests at the beginning. Sometimes they have a countdown or they have that. Forget
signal test.
Yeah, none of that. Because as I said, no one has time. Nobody has an attention span. Don't put any of that crap at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that kind of to expand on that, it's not a movie or a show. It's a resume.
Right.
It doesn't need to be it doesn't have to have like a first act leaded
exactly
or a Game of Thrones intro. We kind of just want to see what you can do. And I think there is a little bit of a focus on putting the entertainment value in it in a way that isn't showing off your skill, but is just making it supposedly more interesting to watch. I think those are two different things. One of the things that I look for a lot when viewing an artist's work is, do they have that storytelling skill? Do they have that ability, that artistic eye, that thing you can't really teach?
Right.
But only in the context of the actual work. I don't need the fluff in the beginning or a super fancy logo animation or something like that to tell that I want to get to what you're actually trying to show me.
Right. Exactly. Now,
sort of just wasting everyone's time at that point.
That's right. It's just unnecessary. Now, if you do all these things and you take all these tips from you two and me and whatever, you put together this great reel, on top of all that is something called timing. And what I mean by that is you can send a reel to Joe Schmo over at an ad agency, and you have to become now your own agent. And I know that's really difficult for people who are introverts and people who get social anxiety, but you can't just send it and walk away. You have to send it, and then maybe in 3 or 4 days, send them an email or give them a call and say, hey, I sent it. I just wanted to see if there's anything that's come across your plate that needs my help. Because there have been so many times when because part of my job is cold calling people. And there have been so many times that I called Joe Schmo at BBDO, and they say, oh my God, something just came across my desk. This is perfect. What do you have? I need some, CG characters. What do you have? So much of this is about timing. You can't just send it and walk away. You have to send it and follow up, and then follow up again in a month and a half, follow up again in a month. Keep your name hot with these people.
Build that relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah,
build a relationship.
There's a degree of it that some people would call luck, but I think you can. I think you can create kind of to your point. You can create your own luck by increasing the frequency
Yes.
of being top of mind. Right.
Absolutely.
You're trying to, and honestly, while we're on the topic, communication is one of the hallmarks of a successful artist in our industry.
Mhm.
If you know how to write an email and jump on the phone and do a video call with me, and even if you have to put on a mask and you're a sweaty mess behind it because you're introverted and you're not, this is not your forte, that's fine as long as it comes off concise and professional and prompt.
Right.
Right time, right place situation is a big part of that, and communicating via email or anything like that successfully is something that puts you ahead of a lot of artists.
Right.
Like a staggering amount of artists can't communicate in a way that is to business standards, right?
Yeah.
So learning that skill is super, super important in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think
Marci emphasized that early on, that she doesn't hire artists. They work with agencies, and the agencies hire the artists.
Yeah. But, it's interesting that you say that, Ross, because I think since COVID, people have gotten even more anxiety, more social anxiety. And it's harder now for these kids to talk to people. I mean, I've got a 24-year-old daughter I said, why don't you call your friend? And, Mom, we don't call people. What's wrong with you? Text.
Oh yeah, my wife doesn't call people. She has me call everybody for sure. 100%.
So if that's the case and you do get social anxiety, but you have a phone number for somebody, look at it as though you're playing a character. You're playing a character of this artist who's really good and really confident and really wants to get that job.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was saying by like putting on a mask and just having this performance spotlight for that 30-second call makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what really matters isn't, I'm speaking for me as a curator of art mostly, but what really matters to me is not the degree. It's not, your vocabulary. It's the work at the end of the day. And so if you can get the rest of, if you can fake it till you make it on the rest of the stuff, I mean, that's all that really matters to me, is making sure that you can do the work and you turn it in on time and it looks fantastic and passes everybody's approvals, right? Like that's ultimately what it comes down to.
I would say 75% of it is work, but there's also that other 25% that's personality, because I've learned that some people would rather hire somebody, who's maybe not as qualified, but they know is going to bring something exciting to the culture of their company.
Yeah.
So, let me just give you this example. When I graduated college, I came out, I went on 10 interviews, and I got 10 offers. But it wasn't because I was so qualified, because what the hell did I know? I'm just right out of college. But one of the women who was interviewing me said to me, you're the first person that's come in here, and this is back when we were all in person. You're the first person who's come in here that I can have a conversation with, because everybody else comes in here and they say, I was there for 3 years. Then I left and now I'm doing this. And they're terrified and they don't have a conversation. And I would walk into someone's office and I would see a Yankee hat on their shelves. And I'd say to them, you know what? This isn't going to work. I should leave now because I'm a Red Sox fan. So this is never going to work. And it would just put a smile on their face. And they would remember me and they'd say, oh, you might be fun to have around. So even though I knew nothing, I wasn't really able to do anything in the world at that point, but they wanted me in the office. So I think that's really important.
Oh,
make them smile.
It's very human, right? Like everyone loves, no one hates laughing, right? Like even the most
Right.
miserable person you ever met, like will enjoy to laugh. And if you can just relate to them on something human like that, and
Anything.
that's a very fundamental sales tactic, right? Like
Yep.
absolutely every sales training ever will teach you like find something to connect on a human level immediately and be lighthearted and funny.
Yes.
And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think speaking to that, like we've landed one of our favorite deals ever. And part of why we're having one of the best years, the best year we've ever had, is one of the deals that we just got. We outcompeted 2 other agencies way more established than us with a previous relationship with these people.
Wow.
Like every reason in the world not to hire us, like we're the underdogs for sure. And we got it. And it was because of the relationships and the communication.
That's
And
it.
he even said that. He's like, I don't even know how to articulate what it is. But like he said, like, you guys just, I want to work with you guys. Like you're excited about this project. You have this extra,
Right. There you go. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, it's the passion.
We've seen it.
Yeah, make them. You don't have to make them laugh. Ha ha ha. Just make them smile. Just show them
Yeah.
that you're personable and
Yeah.
you're a pleasure to deal with.
Yeah, you're
Just
gonna
so
come
many people
enjoy
are
what
not.
you're around. Yeah, totally. Oh my God. Like I'm gonna have to look at your face and talk to you about some stuff for X number of hours. It might as
Yep.
well be more enjoyable. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
And Carl, I'm incredibly analytical as a human, and Carl's kind of taught me to appreciate that more. Like I don't know that had I never met Carl, I don't know that I would value that as much as I think I should.
But not everybody's good at that, Ross. Not everybody can
Right.
do it, and that's okay.
Absolutely. And I mean, in talking to people, I feel like I wouldn't even notice it as much. It would be very subconscious for me had I not met Carl, and he's almost exclusively looking for that
Yeah.
that personability. And I think that maybe to the detriment of people listening. But when we were in the preliminary calls with this client, we weren't afraid to talk about stuff that we liked in just pop culture and just the shows we were watching, and we were very human with them, because at the end of the day, it's animation. Like we're working in creativity, and if it's not animation, it's illustration or design. It doesn't have to be as stuffy as I think people think of it in their head. They think, oh well, I'm going to an interview, and so I have to interview like I'm going to an accounting job.
Right.
And it's
so not that
actively, it's actively detrimental, I think.
Yeah.
I think that fear maybe stifles some of that personability that some of these interviewees or artists and they have actually innately, and they feel like they need to put on a different type of mask that might be the wrong one for the industry, maybe.
And that's what it is, Ross. It's a mask. As I said, think of yourself as playing a character. And that's how you can maybe get out of your social anxiety just a little bit to really get, I don't know, more boisterous with whoever it is you're talking to, so that they can see the fun side of you.
So the takeaway there
is play D&D.
Yeah. Well, and the big takeaway is if the reel actually lands you a conversation, no matter what aspect you're going into, go in there, be real, be authentic, be human. Don't be afraid to maybe cuss a little or be lighthearted.
Right.
You're just going to get a smile on their face. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yep.
I love that.
That's it.
All right. So I have a question I'm dying to ask. Yeah. Okay. So what is the worst reel you've ever seen? One that just burned in the back of your mind, like, what the hell were these people thinking?
Yeah, there is one.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, this is a reel from, I'm probably going to say 25 years ago.
Okay.
I knew, I got this reel, and it started with the test, the countdown, 3, 2, beep.
Oh, great start so far.
And then he labeled it as he was a director. And as I'm looking at every single piece on this reel, I knew that he didn't direct it, every single one. And he put a couple of pieces on there more than once. So it was like the Oreo piece started the reel, and then 4 pieces down was the exact same spot.
So you just made your entire don'ts list from this one.
I should have. Yeah, I mean, probably.
Wait, So all it needed was the interviewee to be talking like your pet peeve earlier. We gotta break into that too, because I think that's important.
Oh my God. Oh, the pet peeves that I have with work. Yeah. Okay. So my pet peeves these days are a lot of kids coming out of college and they're interviewing for jobs and they're getting jobs. And the problem is there's no one to train them because I think COVID pushed a lot of seasoned agency producers over the edge and they left. And they're like, what do I need this shit for? And they left. And so the agencies panicked and hired a lot of kids right out of college. The problem is, and I'm going to go back to when I was at an ad agency. It was my first job in the career world. And I was sitting next to people and I listened to their conversations. And I would even hear my bosses at the time say, okay, Marci, we're going to go to an edit. So we'll be back in a couple of hours. And I'd say, an edit? What is an edit? Do you mind if I come? I'd love to see what it looks like. Yeah, sure. The other secretaries, because I was a secretary at the time, got pissed off that I got to leave the office. But I was going to learn. Oh, we're going to a voice record. And I'd say, oh, I'd love to see what that is. Can I go? And then I'd listen to the conversations next to me and I'd learn what to ask, what not to ask, what's important. And the kids coming out of college now, they're all working from home. And so there's no one to sit next to and there's no one to learn from if no one's training you. That aside, they need to know how to deal with people. I guess I'm one of the older people in the business now. It's just scary to me, but we need to get the word like out of our vocabulary. That's super important. We need to get it out because I get calls that say like, Marci, like I need some like animation. And like, I was like hoping that you could like help me. And that just, when you use the word like every other word, it tells the person that you're not as business savvy as you need to be.
Yeah. It's sure.
Right. Experience. Okay. Then number two that makes me nuts is the up talking. So that means that you're ending every sentence as if it's a question. So they'll call me and say, Marci, I was like hoping to like get some animation from you. And I was hoping that you could like help me. And what that says to people is you really aren't sure about what you're saying to me or what you're doing. It makes the person sound very insecure because you're waiting for some kind of verification of what you're saying. So you need to get that out of your, I don't know, your voice as well.
Your repertoire.
Your repertoire. Yeah. And the third thing, and I'm just going to say that if I had a gun in my house, this is probably, I would put it up to my head for this one, is the vocal fry. It's a Kardashian thing. It's like when they talk like that. Like, so if we put all these three things together, it sounds like this when I get a phone call. Like, Marci, like, I was like told that you could like help me. And I was wondering if you could send me a link. And I will tell you guys, it takes everything in my soul to not answer them just like that. I really want to I really want to say, okay, I can help you. Just tell me what you need. And it's almost like I have to put a seatbelt on when they call me like that so that I don't jump out of my seat and answer them like that. So you need to sound professional and confident.
And not like a Kardashian.
And not like a Kardashian.
Yeah. And I think if you are one of the few people who actually does sound like that, there's such a thing as a customer service voice, right? Everyone does it. Everyone does it. They shift the tone of their voice so that they're more friendly from a sales standpoint. Just use that voice.
Yeah. Or even a Siri voice. Maybe we need to move to AI like everybody else. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's really important. You have to sound like you've been doing this a while and you're ready to go and you're professional.
Right.
Okay. Does everybody understand that?
I think we got it. So we actually have, or we're getting close to time. So we have one last question for you, Marci. And before we ask it, we want to point people to your website at BlahUSA.com.
Yep. BLAHUSA.com.
Yep. BLAHUSA.com. So our last question is, do you have a colleague in your industry that you immensely respect, or a mentor, or someone that you want to shout out today for the podcast?
Yeah, I would. And that would be my partner, Andy Arkin, who we worked side by side for, I believe it's 22 years until COVID hit. And then we started working from home. But he's a guy, when I was leaving another company and he said, okay, you're going to come work for me. And I said, no, I don't want to work with you because I'm going to end up hating you if we work together, and I don't want to hate you. He said, okay, just give it a try. And long story short, I came in and we just fell in love with working with each other. We were work husband and wives. And in all those years, we sat 5 feet from each other and maybe had one heated argument. He's a mentor. He knows his shit. He taught me well and guided me. And he's my guy. He's my guy. If I ever have any issues, I call Andy, and he's always got fantastic advice. And I know a lot of other people do too. Yeah, they call him for advice.
Yeah, I mean, so I met Andy through you. So huge thanks to him connecting me to you when I had questions about some of the cool work you guys were doing.
Yeah.
And I met Andy through somebody on Lunch Club, which is a great platform. But huge shout out to Andy. He's a super cool guy. And every time I hit him up now, he's snorkeling and adventure and stuff.
I know. He's Captain Snorkeler. No, he's scuba. He's Captain Scuba.
Oh, scuba, yeah. Sure. I love it.
He takes amazing pictures underwater.
Oh, he does. He sent me a couple. And I tell you what, he's living a life that he earned. So
he did earn
Andy. So both of you, for sure. So
can I tell you a really quick funny story about when we used to work together?
Yeah, totally.
So we shared office space with a couple of other people, and there was one person we shared space with who thought she was really great on the computer and really knew the Mac and knew everything to do if something goes wrong. So occasionally something would go wrong, and I would look at her and I'd say, well, I'd make something up. I'd say, well, did you turn on the key port valve? And then Andy would turn around, he wouldn't even skip a beat. And Andy would turn around and say, you did turn on the keyport valve, didn't you? And then she would say, oh my God, I didn't turn on the keyport valve. And a couple of times I got up to go to the bathroom. When I came back, she was on the phone with Apple. And
no,
here's the keyport valve. And then Andy would just, boom, he would come in with something like, the dexterous, I don't know, clicker. Did you turn on the dexterous clicker? We'd just make stuff up. And Andy and I would just go at it together with her. It was so funny. And so after many years, after we caught her on the phone with Apple several times asking about these things, we finally had to stop. But Andy and I would have fun like that together, working together. It was just easy part.
I love it. I love it.
That's beautiful. That's great.
Yeah. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate you having me. This is terrific. And you guys are doing a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. Such a blessing. And you are our first official guest. All the other ones we've done have just been me and Ross chewing the fat. So thank you for being such an exciting, wonderful guest. And again, everybody, this is Marci Selsberg.
My pleasure.
With BlahUSA. And they can find more about you at BlahUSA.com.
And thanks to Epic Made, because your work is killer. Killer.
We really appreciate that. Thanks so much.
And that literally means so much coming.
It is. It's great. It's great.
Oh, wow. Cool. Thanks.
If anyone wants to follow up with you personally, do you have like social media for you personally?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm moonwalking on TikTok.
Yes. And we have to see the moonwalking on TikTok.
In Wegmans.
Put it in the description.
It's in a Wegmans.
And a Wegmans. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, and then if it gets to be an intense conversation, we'll move it to my work email. Yeah,
so that's MARCI,
and then SELSBERG.
All right, cool.
Okay,
thank you, Marci. This was fun.
Thank you, and I'll send you the Flava Flav and moonwalking videos.
I love it.
All right. Till next time, friends.
Okay.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.